All right, so good morning, brother. Let's talk about the three emotions that destroys the lives of men, right? One, we have ego. Ego makes you think, ego makes you think that you are perfect, that you have arrived, that you are better than everyone. Guess what? When you think you're perfect, there is no room for improvement. Your lust makes you pursue women that no longer respect you anymore, because when you give into your lust, what happens is women don't respect you. Women see you as a bitch. The third one now is your fear. With your fear keeps you stuck. Fear makes you avoid risk, and there is no way you can level up in this life without some form of risk. And fear will make sure that you stay in your comfort zone. So the problem now is, to an extent, most guys are aware of these things to an extent, but the problem is when you kill any of these emotions, you kill the aspect of masculinity that makes you thrive, that makes you grow. A typical example is, if you kill your ego, there's no need to want to get better anymore, right? When you kill your lust, there's really no reason for you to go out there and meet women and pursue women, right? Again, women are a good source of motivation. When you kill your fear, you begin to do stupid shit. Stay with me. So now, when you don't keep your ego in check, what happens? What's the problem with your ego? You become overconfident. You become overconfident. Now, when you become overconfident, how does it look like? It looks like this. You think you are better than everyone. You think you are perfect. Then when you walk into a room and then you realize that there is somebody who is better than you, guess what happens? You feel fucked up. Now, I remember this saying when I got to my university, right, to join the long distance team. One thing my coach said was, yes, you guys are all coming from different high schools. The thing is, all of you will meet different kings from different kingdoms, right? So it's not about, if you're a king in your former kingdom, you never can tell who you're currently competing with. The irony was, there was a guy literally from the army in that team. This guy made us, man, you were like 16, this guy like in his 20s. This guy made us feel like kids, like children. It was then the coach now came back to explain to us that, like I said, you were kings in your former kingdoms. Now that you are meeting different people from different kingdoms, you have to mellow, you have to check your ego. So your ego keeps you overconfident. And guess what happens? When it keeps you overconfident, you become delusional about what the fuck is going on. So that's a problem when it comes to what? When it comes to your ego, right? So the signs that your ego is controlling you, right? The signs that your ego is controlling you is that you become very defensive. Whenever somebody calls you out, it's like, oh, who the fuck are you to call me out, right? You begin to think yourself as somebody who is too proud. So whenever somebody tries to correct you, you don't take correction. Because why? Your ego. And guess what happens? When you never take corrections, that is when you begin to make the dumbest mistakes. You begin to do things that are beyond your strength. Stupid shit. Again, signs that your ego is just too big, right? You have no room for growth when you think like this. When you become defensive, you become blind to your own blind spot, right? So why should you control your ego? So let's talk about why you should control. When you control your ego, guess what happens? Growth happens when you control your ego. Why? Because there's a reason that whenever you crush a man's ego, that is a source of motivation for him to get better. That shows you that your ego itself is a driving factor. Your ego itself gives you a sense of confidence about yourself, right? The big problem is when you think you are so good, you begin to compare yourself with other people. Then your ego begins to have a problem, right? There's a principle from Miyoto Musashi. He says, think lightly of the world, of yourself, and think deeply about the world, because in reality, you're just a dust. You're just like what? You are a little atom on earth here. So when it comes to your ego, it gives you drive. That's why you should what? Keep your ego. Because when you kill your ego, you kill the drive. When you kill the ego, there's no longer a sense for growth, right? Again, speaking of you being defensive, right? Whenever somebody brushes your ego, right? A typical example is, if you train for, say, a particular sport, hold on. When you become defensive sometimes, right? When your ego is crushed, one thing you should realize is, you are playing with a false identity. So your ego gives you a false it gives you a lie about who you are. So what happens is when somebody calls you out on your BS, what happens is you fold. You become defensive, you fold. Right? You prevent accountability. And guess what happens? Over time, if you see yourself in that leadership position, it begins to crumble because you're not worth it. You created this image that was bigger than yourself. So now how can you control your ego? How can you control your ego? First thing I'll say is first of all, have the beginner mindset. Now, I'm saying beginner mindset because let me give you another instance in my life. Right now, I'm currently learning about boxing, right? And sometimes people come to me behind my camera and say things like, oh, you're so good in boxing, you're so fast. And I'm here wondering that these guys are looking at me from the outside. But as a person who is learning, right, I can see my own flaws. My boxing coach is seeing my own flaws. So the thing now is that, knowing fully well that I'm a beginner, right, I wouldn't let all those compliments get into my head. I will not let those compliments inflate my ego because I know that is how some guys would literally, they are beginners in a particular sport and they'll go and fight against the pro guys. I'm like, bro, are you fucking mad? At the point of making this video, there's a fight I was supposed to join for in a couple of weeks ago. I had to step back because, bro, I am new to this game, right? Even though I keep getting compliments, I am new to this game. I should go against guys of 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, right? Even though I'm not even trained for that, right? Again, your ego is a good source of drive. Your ego, there's a reason why if you've seen guys in the mixed martial arts space, in the UFC space, you see these guys how they have huge egos, right? Now this is one thing you should realize about these guys. They have huge egos. They will bash themselves, talk about how good they are. But guess what? They will try their possible best to back it up. They will train, they could insult their opponents they can insult them for 5 days. But guess what? They are working as hard as they can for 4 times a day, 3 times a day to make sure that they can back up that ego because your ego is not real. They are lies, right? Coming from your head. But guess what? These guys understand that if they need to win, they have to back up the lies with actual action, right? So again, your ego gives you that drive. It gives you a place to match up to. So you know what? I'm going to win this motherfucker. I'm going to win this motherfucker. What that means is that I have to train so hard that in the day of the fight, I feel more confident I can beat this motherfucker. If you think about it, somebody will lose the fight now, and the next 3 months, he's still bragging about trying to beat that same guy because, again, your ego drives you to become better. Without your ego, you're fucked. Now, lust. The problem with lust is women don't respect you. Women don't respect you. That's the first thing you should know, that even though some women are giving you attention because you are paying them money, to them it is strictly a transaction. The day you end the transaction, that is the day the 12 years are gone, right? So 1, women don't respect you. 2, when it comes to lust, you are distracted as a man. You are distracted from your purpose. So, okay, yeah, I think a sign is you're distracted, right? So a sign that you're distracted from your purpose. You succumb to your desires. You succumb to desires, right? What that means is there's no way you can be a man who is disciplined and still be lustful because, again, your lust gives into your desires. They cause disrespect. You always are out there pursuing pleasure, whether it's in real life, chasing women, or porn, right? But when you're always on your mission, you're always on your purpose, guess what happens? Lust becomes easy to get rid of. So why should you control your lust? Because, bro, trust me, when you're talking to a very attractive girl, right, and you're talking to her like she's an average girl, right, guess what happens? She respects you. She begins to think that, okay, this guy must be a very high-value guy. And this is what I tell you guys. Don't fake it. Why don't you become the high-value guy? Why don't you become that guy that is not really moved by her beauty? Because let me tell you something, beauty fades, right? And I see a lot of guys ignore character flaws and still go for beauty. Bro, that's dumb. That is dumb. It shows that you are barely thinking about your life. You are barely thinking about consequences, right? Now, why should you control? Why don't you just kill it? Why should you control it? Because here's the harsh truth. Women are a good source of motivation, right? Think about it. So many guys are in the gym because of women. So many guys make money because of women, right? And it's actually good, right? The thing is, I feel they're a very good source of motivation for you to start. But at some point, you have to realize that these things you're doing, you're doing them for your own advantage, right? You're doing them for your own benefits. That the women are the actual side benefits. So again, why you should control it is because, again, they give you a sense of drive. They are a good source of motivation. Because without that desire to what? To meet women, to reproduce and shit, what happens is you give up on your goals, right? There's really no need for you to improve your life if women are not involved. Let's be honest, right? But the problem is when you do it solely for their sake, when you do it, okay, you know what, I'm at the gym because they told me if I go to the gym, I'll become more attractive. Guess what? You can go to the gym for 10 years and some women will still turn you down, right? Because of why? You've forgotten that money is also important. You've forgotten that charisma is also important. Game is also important, right? So as a man, keep your lust, right? Control your lust. Again, every single emotion here is an emotion that's supposed to be controlled, not to be killed, right? So how do you do this? I'll say this. How you can control your lust is, for me, I would always say something, right? If you have a purpose that you are always working on, you have a mission you're always working on, it becomes easier for you to control your lust because your energies is directed towards that path, right? Your mental energy, your mental focus is moving more it's taking you closer to your goals. How else can you also handle lust? Is the way you see women, right? If you see women as this objects to just have sex with, guess what happens? You end up with a fucked up view of life, right? But see women as human beings, right? See them as people who have desires, who have opinions. That will help you with lust, right? What else can help you with lust? Desexualizing your brain. I've spoken about this several times, desexualizing your brain. If you've never watched that video, please go and watch that video, right? Because it will help you shift your mind completely, right? So when we're talking to women, you can basically talk to them without thinking about sex, right? And there's something as powerful as that because there's something very powerful about that because when you're talking to a girl, right, who every single guy has sexualized, and you're that guy who's talking to her without any sexual jokes, there's a way it makes them think about you. There's a level of respect they give to you when you are that guy who yes, they have that sexual attraction, but you don't allow it to control your decisions. You're a man of what? That thinks with his head, not with his dick. Now, fear, right? Now, the problem with fear is it keeps you stuck. It keeps you stuck. Right? It keeps you safe. It keeps you protected. But here's the reality now, is that you are actually stuck. You are stuck. Yes, and then fear works in different ways because a sign of that you are afraid is that you procrastinate. Now, you procrastinate not because you don't have enough information, but because of that fear of going to the next level. And trust me, when you have that fear, you will push things away. You will look for excuses like, oh, I don't have enough information. I need to get more information on this. But bro, it's all fear. It's all fear of stepping up to the unknown. Same thing with women, right? You could tell yourself, so something happened recently this weekend, right? I found myself in an event I never planned to be. I found myself in the event, right? I was not really dressed for that event. Now the irony was, a voice in my head said, bro, you can't be preaching about guys having that amount of stepping out of their comfort zone and you are not stepping out of the comfort zone, right? So bro, I had to muster up that courage and approach girls. So now, why do you need fear? Now, this is very important because people think, oh, kill the fear. When you kill the fear, do you know what happens? You do a lot of dumb shit. Your fear, right? Fear as a man, right? It's supposed to indicate something is not right somewhere. That's what fear is supposed to be as a man. As a man, when you sense fear, what happens is it's supposed to make you prepare for that fear. A typical example now is, if you have ever been threatened on the streets before, right, by people who are not armed, that fear is supposed to make you do what? Go and learn how to fight. The irony is when you learn how to fight, the beautiful thing is that you barely ever get to fight. That shit bugs my mind, right? You feel the fear, you go and learn how to fight. When you learn how to fight, you are being taught when not to fight. And the truth is that you could be on the streets and a problem comes up, right? But because of you are so confident in yourself, you're not the first to trigger the fight. You just let things happen. So again, why should do it? Because it gives you a sense of what? It makes you what? Proactive, right? So you sense fear, and you realize, even in business, right? If you sense fear in business, and you begin to ask yourself, what can you do to get rid of this fear? You come to realize that, you start taking actions that remove that fear from the situation. That's where thinking now starts. So let's say in business now, right? There's always a fear of not being able to meet up with the payroll, right? Why don't you focus on having a runway of cash flow, right? For me now, for my finances, I make sure that for me personally, I have a few months of runway in my account. At least I don't touch that money for almost any reason, if not emergency, right? Because it gives me a kind of confidence that, okay, fine, I have a few more months left. So I can take the rest. Maybe if I want to invest in equipment, I can invest in equipment. If I want to enjoy, I can enjoy. But those few months, they allow me to get rid of that fear in my head. So how can you get rid of fear, right? It's by what? Preparing for that fear. I use the word prepare for the fear, right? Because here's the harsh truth. Fear is always going to be there, whether I like it or not, right? So I'm asking yourself, what can I do in myself to get rid of this fear, right? Again, what can help you here is that your guys, your brotherhood can help you here when it comes to fear. Right? If you have like a group of guys that will hold you accountable, right? Because trust me, when those fear comes in, I remember when, man, this is my podcast studio, right? And I was thinking of, oh shit, I need to get this, I need to have a full frame camera, I need to have a full frame lens, XYZ, looking at the budget and shit, right? And how to like fund it. One of my guys said something, he says, this is why you need like a brotherhood around you. You need to have more male friends, bro. This is what he said. He says, guy, your podcast is just starting out. To be very realistic, you're my guy, right? But you may never become popular in what? 6 months, maybe 3 months. You might get there in 6 months, which is okay. But you may never be there in 2 months, 3 months. Why don't you focus on the content itself, right? And leave the aesthetics out of it. Hopefully, if you are giving out value, if you're entertaining, right? Those two things, be interesting and educate people. So that when people are done with your podcast, they know that, yes, these are the things they got from your podcast. If you can achieve these two things while using what you already have, that will elevate your life. And bro, I was very grateful for that thought process, right? Because if I let this fear of, okay, my content will not be so good because of I don't have the right gears, the right camera, I will be stuck by now. Here's the harsh truth, right? Again, these things come up from time to time, right? This is why I say, for my particular studio, it's been there for over a year, right? And now, I was not held back by equipment. I was held back by other things, by other priority tasks. But time for me to start the podcast, I was now held up by equipment. But I'm grateful for my brotherhood, for my guys, right? Because I had more guys on my first shoot. I had guys behind the camera. I had like we're 4 in the studio, just like to like see how things are. People bringing up ideas, bro. If you have a brotherhood, right? I swear to God, you'll be very good. So again, your ego makes you think you are bigger than what you actually are. But when people test you, you fall. You're lost. Your lost keeps you controlled, keeps you manipulated. Women disrespect you for it. Your fear, which is supposed to make you think about what you should do to prevent that situation, keeps you stuck, right? So what should you do again? Prepare for anything that makes you afraid. If you know that you have to face that obstacle, face it heads on, right? Don't be afraid to fail. I think this is for ego, right? Beginner mindset. Don't fear failure. And I was just thinking of something right now, yeah? As I was making this video. Is that you need to read this book, the Dokoto. I don't know if I got this incorrect. Because I just realized that these 3 things, when Miyamoto Musashi says, think lightly of yourself and deeply of the world, it will help control your ego, right? Don't give in to your, don't chase pleasure for the sake of it. This will help you control your lust if you read that part of the book, that principle. And for the fear, it tells you, don't fear death. If you don't fear death, what is there for you to be afraid of in this life? So there's a reason why the most masculine men in the world are fighters. And there's a reason Miyamoto Musashi, who wrote this book, was also a fighter. Now, why I chose this video, right, is very personal to me. Over the weekend, I got the news of somebody who was close to me who passed on, right? He passed on in a car accident where he was driving alone. And I didn't ask about the specifics, but there's an issue. He was drunk. And people recall that while he was drunk, while he was leaving the party, they told him to not drive, right? To sleep over. But he said, no, he's fine. He has to be somewhere the next morning. Guess what happens? He was unable to go because he has passed on. And I feel very, very bad because this thing keeps happening over and over again. That ego of, oh, don't worry, I can handle the alcohol. I can handle what is in my system. It's like, bro, if you know you are going to drive, right? At least, let's be honest, we have been there where we have had like a couple of drinks, even though we're going to drive, yes. But know your fucking limits, man. These things, when they are in your system, they impair your judgment. I have been there several times. I've never had an accident, but because at least I know that, bro, these things are strong, right? These things can take you out. And bro, I have a limit what I indulge in. So brother, that's why I was moved to make this video. So if you made it this far, thank you very much for showing up. It's obvious that you are willing to control your desires, control your lusts, right? And control your fear, because these things, you need to keep them in check. Thank you very much, brother. Talk to you soon. And bye for now.